There's a lot of controversy around bread. Someone says that you can't live without bread, that everyone needs bread. And someone says, on the contrary, that bread is evil and it must be excluded from your diet. But there was a third party. Marketers offer what they call healthy bread. And which of them should believe? How are things really going? Is bread really harmful? Or is it still possible to eat it? Or is it possible to eat only some varieties and types of bread? In this video, we will answer all these questions. Therefore, watch this video to the end. It will be very interesting and useful. So, first of all, we eat bread, of course, not because it is harmful or useful, but simply because it has developed historically and culturally. Our ancestors ate bread because it was the most affordable food for them, and we have been used to eating bread since childhood. Relatively only in recent years, nutritionists and researchers have been talking a lot and arguing in favor of giving up bread after all. But is this really the case? Let's figure it out. Firstly, bread can be different. The first type is white bread. This is a classic wheat loaf. It is worth saying that this type of bread has the highest glycemic index. The problem with a high glycemic index is that it is a pro-inflammatory factor. We have heard many times that sugar should be excluded precisely because it has a pro-inflammatory factor. Our aging and the formation of many chronic diseases are largely due to micro-inflammatory processes, and foods with a high glycemic index are one of the main reasons that affect this, and bread contains a high glycemic index, which leads to these consequences. There is another disadvantage of white flour. The fact is that white bread is usually made from refined flour, and as a result, there is very little fiber, as well as vitamins and minerals. That is, as a rule, these are naked calories. Yeast is also added there, which unfortunately contributes to the excretion of calcium from the body. White bread is also not recommended for people with diseases of the gastrointestinal tract. The next type is yeast-free bread. It is considered a healthier alternative by nutritionists. His calorie content is lower and his glycemic index is also lower. Also, unlike white bread, you can find a good portion of vitamins there. For example, these are B vitamins and various mineral salts. It also contains precious fiber. A healthy adult needs to eat about 30 grams of fiber per day. In practice, as a rule, most of us do not reach this standard, so fiber should be added to our diet. As you may have guessed from the name yeast-free bread, it is bread in which no yeast was used. On the one hand, it is good to give up yeast, as yeast helps to eliminate calcium from the body. But on the other hand, there are disadvantages, because instead of yeast, a special sourdough starter is used in which baking soda is used, and in some people with gastrointestinal diseases, it can cause some discomfort. Friends, before we continue, we recommend subscribing to our channel, where you will find even more useful videos about health, youth, and longevity. And also turn on the bell so as not to miss new useful releases. So, let's move on. The next type of bread is bran bread. This bread is a good source of fiber. Fiber improves the function of our intestines and helps to cleanse them. And also fiber lowers cholesterol and nourishes healthy microflora. So of course, fiber is a must, but it should be understood that everything needs its measure. If an adult needs 30 grams of fiber, it doesn't mean that if you eat 60 grams, it will be twice as good. No, it won't. That's where the opposite effect comes in. And if you eat more than 300 grams of bran bread every day, you can get some side effects such as abdominal bloating, stomach and intestinal discomfort, digestive disorders, and so on. So now let's talk about gluten, which are found in bread. Very often you can hear that gluten is evil, that gluten must definitely be given up, and so on. Is this really the case? It should be said that indeed about 2% of the world's population have a very serious gluten intolerance, and these people really need to give up bread, and in general from any product containing gluten. But there are 98% of people who tolerate gluten, but they also tolerate it in different ways. Someone tolerates it well, and someone has a hidden allergy, that is a hidden intolerance to gluten. And it can be quite difficult to identify this most hidden intolerance. One of the more or less simple ways is to give up any product containing gluten for 30 days and look at the change in well-being. Sometimes people get significant improvements. They feel better and more cheerful, sleep better, mood is better, digestion is better. This means that there really was a hidden gluten intolerance, and it is worth giving up bread and any other dishes and products containing gluten. Let's understand what gluten is in general. Why did it appear in nature, and what does it really do? It is actually a kind of natural poison. Cereal plants use gluten to deter insects from munching on it. Sounds strange, but yes, it turns out that we are eating a natural poison to repel insects. Now, it's no wonder that many people actually have a body rejection to this substance. Let's move on. The next point to be aware of is the artificial bleaching of flour. White flour has always had a special value. It was considered the highest grade of flour. But if you calculate how much money it costs, it becomes clear why many manufacturers conclude that it's much easier to artificially bleach flour. Therefore, if the manufacturer is unscrupulous, then this is exactly what he will do. After all, such a trick saves a lot of money to this unscrupulous manufacturer. Substances such as chlorine dioxide or potassium bromate are used to bleach flour. These are very unhealthy chemical compounds that are added to bleach flour. Thus, this is another argument for giving up white bread. Let's summarize. If we prefer not white bread, but healthier alternatives such as yeast-free bread or bran bread, and if we consume it in moderation, not exceeding 150 grams per day, and if we have no hidden gluten intolerance and no adverse gastrointestinal reactions, there are likely to be no problems, and the bread is safe for such people. But in all other cases, that is, if it is white bread, or if we eat a lot of bread, more than 150 grams per day, or if we really have some digestive problems, then in these cases it is worth giving up bread. Therefore, it is impossible to say unequivocally that bread is bad or good. As you can see, everything is more complicated. There are nuances everywhere. We are all individuals, and even bread can be different too. A balanced and reasonable approach is needed in everything. By the way, friends, write in the comments, do you eat bread? If yes, what kind of bread do you prefer? If not, then how long ago they refused? Share your experience. I think everyone else will be very interested. If this video was helpful to you, then share it with your friends and hit the like button.